everyone hear me okay? Can we hear? Yes? Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for coming. FK said I had to start the show by saying hello, because apparently I do that at the start of every show. But thank you so much for coming. First of all, there are little slips of paper on your tables. In part 2, we will be doing a little Q&A, so you should be able to write down your questions if you would like to, and to who you would like to ask them for. But without further ado, let's introduce my panel for the evening. First of all, it's the man that's lost more pounds than Arsenal did in the Nicolas Pepe deal. It's Mike Feinberg. Next up, host of Latte Firm, known for the king of breakdowns, when he's not rivaling me for them, of course. It's FK. How you doing, FK? And host of the Chronicles of a Gooner, brilliant commentator. He's going to be rivaling up with the best of them very soon. It's Mr. Harry Symeou. And my former colleague on the Arsenal way, and fantastic bloke all around, and annoyingly attractive compared to us lot, it's Bailey Keogh. Lovely stuff. So how good was that win yesterday, eh? Not bad? Not bad? 2-1 win against Nottingham Forest. We're going to be talking about that and plenty, but let's first of all hear from our guests. Mike? Over from the States?
Yeah.
How are you enjoying it?
I've had a wonderful time. I appreciate you having, the kind of token unsuccessful podcaster on the panel to represent all of us that, thank you. Oh, thank you, Peony Ween. Having a great time. I come over here as much as I can because it just makes me feel like I'm home, and so I'm excited to get talking about some Arsenal tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for coming. I know that the only reason you did come over from the States was just this. Right?
It was
this. Nothing to do with
when you told me about this 3 years ago, I planned the trip, and then we kind of built everything else around it. So.
Lovely stuff. FK, thank you so much for coming, my friends. A transfer window to remember, plenty of breakdowns to do. How have you found it?
It's lovely to be here. Summer's been amazing. We've done our transfer activity really fast. It's great to see clubs fighting over players when we just sort of sit back and watch. Breakdowns galore. Channel's been amazing. And just a pleasure to be here. So thanks very much for having us.
Stuff. Harry Symeou, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's have a round of applause for Tom again, because I wouldn't have had the balls to do something like this. So fair play to Tom. Those 8 a.m. shows, man, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Hats
I don't know how to do it. I mean, it's the missus that pays more than anything, and getting up at 8 a.m. Well, getting up about 6:30 at times to do the shows, but it's the people that watch it that make it, as you know, with your own channel, Chronicles of a Gooner, but breaking into the world of commentary as well. How have you found doing that?
Yeah, it's been great. It's a bit nerve-wracking sometimes, especially when you get given a game with two sides that you don't know very well. So last weekend I was at Watford against QPR, which
You've not heard of
ideal.
Watford and QPR?
No, you know Watford and QPR, but how many stats have you got to hand about Watford and QPR? How much of the narrative do you know? So, yeah, you get nervous and then you end up over-prepping, and it's a bit stressful, but it's great. I'm enjoying it, loving it.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, man.
Keep it up. And, of course, Bailey, you used to work with me very, very closely on the Arsenal way. I mean, do you miss it, the Arsenal way?
I do miss it. Of course, waking up every morning, getting on the show with you and Uma, of course. Yeah, something. Yeah, I do miss for sure.
And how are you finding new stuff going on in the world? I know you've been for a few things now, and obviously enjoying Arsenal on the way as well.
Yeah, of course, seeing Arsenal from the outside rather than the inside as much as I was at the Arsenal way, of course, it's good to see. You know, maybe I'm the bad luck charm if I'm within the club, so maybe it's better.
You left the Arsenal way, and our title race did kind of collapse. That was
true. That is true. Maybe bring me back. Maybe.
There's a hint there. I'm not the boss. I just should put that out. Sorry, but who knows? Right, let's talk about yesterday's game. You know, the build-up was there. First game of the season. Momentum from a Community Shield victory that I think, you know, if it's kind of talked about as a glorified friendly sometimes, but I think if there's one club that made it more than that, FK, it was us. I know that you managed to get to the Community Shield, and in the stands with the fans, it was brilliant.
It was amazing. First of all, great to be back at Wembley because we'd had a summer of, just transfer speculation and no international tournament, of course. But great to be there on the day. The sun was out, Arsenal at Wembley, and just a wonderful result. And listen, a lot of people make, a mockery of us in terms of like, it's not a trophy, it's not real silverware. But to be there against Manchester City, to win it in front of our fans, it was just a glorious day out. So loved it, absolutely loved it.
Do you feel like that momentum carried into the first game? I mean, we kind of dominated things a lot in the first half, and then it did kind of trail off a little bit in the second. But do you feel like that kind of boost of confidence, if you like, from the Community Shield victory was evident in that first game?
Obviously, it was great.
I'm sensing a no.
No, I know, because just looking back at yesterday, I don't think it was the most fluid, free-flowing, swashbuckling football that we're used to, that we were used to last season. I do think it's great to win the Emirates Cup, great to win the Community Shield, but yesterday I felt, a good first half, great couple of goals, of course, and then the second half, it kind of became a little bit flat. I don't think either team really offered that much. We've still got a bit of work to do in terms of fitness and familiarity. There's lots of new players in the team. That will come. But no, not probably not 100% of where we know we're going to be. But it was just great to be back at the Emirates as well, and great to get the 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I've spoken to a few of you guys as you're walking in. I've heard so many that you were at the game yesterday. Some people travelling all the way down, still not able to actually get a ticket and still watching the game, which is amazing. It shows kind of the togetherness of the Arsenal fans, how global the Arsenal fan base is as well. I know we've got people from the States in the crowd over here as well. Tom, thank you so much for coming, my friend. Mike, yes. Round of applause.
Yeah, let's give it up for Tom.
Yeah, give it up for Tom.
Tom from Tampa.
Just for having a great name, to be honest, more than anything. But Mike, obviously coming over from the States as well, you watched plenty of Arsenal games. Was this the first game of the season that you've been to? Or have you been to other first games of the season?
Mike comes over to get drunk. What are you talking about?
I didn't go to the game yesterday. No, I think this might be the first opening game. I've been to the last two closing games, which have kind of been celebratory in different ways, mixed and tinged in with a little bit of disappointment.
Come on.
But it's a weird one because I don't know if it was the late start or the later start than planned. I don't know if it was kind of the way that the game changed after the half. I thought we were cruising on our way to a 4 or 5-0, and it just felt a little bit like everyone was a little hungover from something. I don't know.
Maybe they were with you the night before. It could have been that. Harry, Mike talks a little bit about, obviously, with the ticketing situation. I know that
obviously, people, taking a bit of time to get into the ground, and that can impact the atmosphere right at the start of a match. But to be honest with you, I just thought it was a performance that was indicative of the fact it was the first game of the season. Players aren't quite at their peak fitness levels at this point. You mentioned, FK mentioned the new players coming in. There were 3 starters in the side yesterday, brand new. Not only that, you've got Timber starting at left back, which isn't really his position. You've got Kai Havertz playing in a midfield role. He's been pretty good at left back. He has. But you've got Kai Havertz playing in a midfield role, which he isn't that familiar with. You had Declan Rice playing more like a 6 when the week before he played more like an 8. So, there was a little bit of kind of, I think, teething problems. But the way we dominated the last 25 minutes of the first half was so good. And the game should have been put to bed. I mean, I've come away from the game and listened to a lot of people say that Arsenal kind of lost control of it. Nottingham Forest created nothing apart from the goal. They had one chance early on that Brennan Johnson put wide. Other than that, it was literally one-way traffic. Maybe Arsenal could have been more ruthless, could have dominated the game a little bit more and potentially scored 2-3 more goals and put the game to bed. But it wasn't Arsenal losing control. I think when you're a fan, you get nervous in the last 10 minutes when the game all of a sudden is in jeopardy. But I don't think it was something we should be too concerned about. If it happens 5-6 games into the season, then we can talk about it again. But at this stage, it's just first day teething problems, I think.
And FK, as I mentioned, you were there as a fan yesterday outside the ground. Did you manage to get to the game early and attempt to try and get in there as soon as you could?
So I had downloaded my digital pass well in advance. And just on that, I think the club has taken pelters for introducing this, but I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. We're all very frustrated with touting. I think it makes it easier to transfer tickets, etc., etc. But on the day, obviously, it was just unusual. Like, we went up to the turnstile. I happened to get there. My friend went through. I scanned mine, and then it said, ticket not sold, access denied. And I thought I'd broken the system. And then, of course, Yeah. And then I was just like,
It's always about
typical.
you,
Yeah,
right,
it's
you
always
know.
about right. But pleased it wasn't me, because people started getting frustrated. You could hear, ironic sort of jeers from the crowd, and of course, the poor stewards at Turnstile E. We had two young ladies who clearly just didn't know how to sort of deal with the situation. And when you think about the fans that were around them, we're all getting agitated. It was warm. People have had a few drinks. They just want to get into the game. Kickoffs on the horizon, and that they dealt with it as well as they could. But I felt really sorry for them. Eventually, we obviously got in, and it was fine. And luckily, the game was delayed by half an hour. So just an unusual occurrence.
It was unusual. I think you're really right to point out that this is, the way forward. I know that the balloting system is still something that needs tweaking. I think, a lot of fans have had their own words about it. I know I did a lot of pieces at the end of last season talking to fans about their frustrations about the ticket system. But I also think, Bailey, that there is something to be said about the fact that Arsenal are bloody great right now. Yeah. And that kind of means that everyone wants to go. I was just mentioned, as we were talking about our audience here, some have come down, not been able to get a ticket for games. It's not like, the way I view it, and I know that I'm in a position where I'm not going through the same channels, but in the same way that I know that there's so many people that want to get a ticket, the chances of getting one in the ballot system is going to be small, and that's going to lead to a situation whereby people are going to miss out, unfortunately. Do you feel like, though, the ballot system is kind of the right way forwards to try and tackle the touting, which has been a problem?
Yeah, I feel like it is a problem, and the demand is always going to be greater. So I do feel like it is temporary. I think it is temporarily a good system, of course. I think if we maybe tried it out on a game that had less importance, maybe not the first game of the season, where so many fans are trying to go to the game, maybe it would have been better to do it at a smaller attendance game. So maybe of a youth game, or maybe a women's game that had taken place at Emirates, maybe where there's less.
Well, the women's sold out.
I must say they are doing very well. But a game that's not the first game of the season, where everybody is going to be then, of course, and it is going to be hectic. So maybe if it was in a game of less, not importance, but less traction and attraction to the match. So I think maybe if it was tried out differently, but as we said, the demand for Arsenal right now is great. So you can look at it negatively, but you also have to take the positives from it. Everybody wants to watch Arsenal, which only means more money for our revenue, potentially more better for our transfers going forward as well. So there is positives to it as well as negatives.
Whatever they do, Tom, right now they can't win, because the demand is so high. If you do the ballot, there'll be people that complain. If you do it first come, first served, there'll be people that complain. The demand is there. I remember 2-3 years ago when I'd be working at a game and my ticket would be spare. I couldn't give a Europa League ticket away to somebody for free. Like, I would ring up friends that would always say, I don't get a chance to go. And I'd say, look, my ticket's here. And they'd say to me, oh, it's cold, or, it's a bit of a long way, or, I don't fancy this game. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff or whatever. There'd always be an excuse, but the demand is there now. And that's why Arsenal have taken some steps to try and do something a little bit fairer. But whatever you do, when everybody wants to go to the game, you're not going to please everyone. So I can sit here and say the ballot's not the right thing, but I don't know what the solution is.
One of the things that's unique as an American is, in American sports, you've got season ticket holders, and they'll sell out the entire stadium at season ticket holders if they have that ability to do so. And then it's just a matter of people going, not going. What I love about this sport and this culture is that there is a desire to reward loyalty. There is that badge that you wear of being home or home and away every game since, and you name the year. It could be in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And I love that. Most of us that come over here for games love what's different about this sport than all the other sports that we have at home. But it is strange with the ticketing, because if you have a team that's succeeding and doing well, and there's more demand than supply for tickets, what is likely to happen is that season ticket holders are going to get very rich selling their tickets on the secondary market, because it is not illegal. Here it is. And I understand the reasons that it is, and I actually like the reasons that it is, because we want the right people sitting in the seats, not just people who have the most money. Again, I'm not proposing any solutions here, because I don't really have any. It's just a different perspective on it, and I'm glad that there are efforts being taken to keep the money in the right hands, to keep the people in the seats as people who are going to create and make it a very good atmosphere. Because that's really what football is over here.
And I also think just to kind of finish this thread, there is also a point that I'm really passionate about, is that having met so many supporters that have gone to their first game this weekend, last season, season before last, and having known fans, like yourself, Faisal, that have been for years and years and years, there is something I think to be said about, I'm afraid that we get into sometimes a bit of an elitist kind of feeling that people that feel they've been for 40 years deserve a ticket more than someone that's going to their first game. And for me, if you're an Arsenal fan that's thousands of miles around the world, you're just as much of a fan as anyone who lives 5 minutes from the ground, because we all share that community. Harry?
Yeah.
After that pre-season of waking up at 2, 3 a.m., I now have way more respect for the fans overseas that do that on a weekly basis. But you're absolutely right. There is this kind of like elitist mentality among some fans. Well, I go home and away. Well, if somebody else had the opportunity to go home and away, they probably would as well. So it's not like, it is great when you do that, and you know, a lot of us are lucky enough to do that, but it doesn't make you a better fan than anybody else.
No, if you wear the badge on this shirt, for me, you know, you're as much as fan as everyone else, and I know that everyone on this floor and everyone in the audience, you know, cares about this club as much as we do. The game, because that was obviously what we want to talk about more, but I thought it was important to address the ticketing thing. We discussed how the game kind of was, I felt, dominant in the first half. Bukayo Saka, naturally on fire, as he always is. Had a really strong pre-season. Gabriel Martinelli, you know, the assist. Let's talk about that first goal, Bailey. You know, the roulette. I mean, that deserves a round of applause. The roulette was... It was disgusting.
He didn't mean to set up Eddie Nketiah. I'm not having that. He tried to get on the end of it himself.
Of course he meant that.
He wanted to get on the end of the ball himself and have a shot. And that's fine.
No,
but when it went to Eddie Nketiah...
Yeah, let's boo that.
I'm being honest.
No.
I'm being honest.
Bailey, as someone that's played with Eddie Nketiah, as you were telling us earlier,
of course.
You know,
He's got
seen
evidence.
Jay from the In-Betweeners heard those stories? Yeah, he's played with Eddie Nketiah, I'm sure. But I felt as though the way in which Martinelli he's going to kill you for that after. The way in which he spun, and then the way in which he back-heeled the ball, as opposed to kind of rolling his foot over the ball to keep it in possession, gave me the indication as
You are clutching here, Tom. You are seriously clutching.
do I have to get up and demonstrate it? I'm not doing that.
Yes, I think actually you need to
Right.
see that.
We're going to try. So the way in which Martinelli spins, right? He spins, imagine the ball's behind me, or so you can see this side. He back-heels the ball, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't roll the ball.
You don't get this from any other podcast.
I have quite the view.
I want to see your point, TC, because it's a great demonstration. But I do agree with Harry. I think...
I'm surprised he didn't pull his ACL again doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, Martinelli, he showed the Brazilian in him with that skill. I think him being Brazilian allows it to be accepted. I think it was another player who was not Brazilian. Then we might have the debates might be out, but Martinelli is Brazilian, so it is what a Brazilian does. Silky,
And
smooth.
I was reaching. You know, I was reaching.
It's a Brazilian move. I think when I saw Gabriel Martinelli, sometimes when I see him, he hasn't got the same aura like you do as a Neymar or a left winger like you'd see from a Brazilian who's silky smooth. Martinelli is very robust, but we'll get to the point. Martinelli showed there that he has the skills in him, and that assist for me was already an assist of the season. I think it'll be hard to beat that already. And it was wonderful to see. And I think Martinelli is very underrated as well. We talk about Bukayo Saka. By underrated, I mean in the Premier League. I think left wingers in the Premier League, you don't really think of Martinelli. Even in world football, you don't put Martinelli with the best. And I think he deserves to get more of a mention because we put Bukayo Saka in that bracket. But we also need to remember Martinelli's goals and assists last season was solid. It was very good. So please, let's put respect on Martinelli's name. I think this season he started off perfectly with that assist.
Absolutely.
And he's Brazilian.
And he's Brazilian.
Brazilian,
Don't
let's not
forget.
forget.
Don't forget, he's Brazilian. FK, the goal scorer Eddie Nketiah. There's been such a focus on the fact that Gabriel Jesus, another Brazilian, has obviously been missing at the start of this season. And I spoke to Eddie after the game in the Emirates Cup. And a lot of the questions that were put towards Eddie were along the lines of, how do you feel about filling in for Eddie and for Gabriel Jesus? How do you feel about stepping into the shoes of Gabriel Jesus? And from my perspective, he needs to himself, because the fans, the journalists can't do that. He himself has to try and change the discussion to not be around him filling in for someone, but him being the guy that is the number 14 at Arsenal and stepping up. And was this the perfect way to start off that turn?
Yeah, listen, Eddie Nketiah, you score goals, you keep people like me quiet, right? I think Mikel summed it up after the game perfectly by saying that in training, Eddie's been like a beast. At least I think I've got that right. I think what we've seen in Eddie over the last 18 to 24 months in particular is this physical development. You know, he has been working so hard on his physique, his body strength. He's so much more mobile. The 20-minute, 30-minute cameo he had against Manchester City in the Community Shield, he came on and his energy changed the game. You know, he was running in behind, causing havoc for the City defenders. It allowed Trossard to find that space. Eddie's just got to keep doing more of that. I think what I'd love to see Eddie do more as well is just become a bit better as an impact player, as a substitute. You know, he's not going to be a regular starter for Arsenal while we've got Gabby Jesus up top. And of course, there's the conundrum with Kai Havertz. Does he play up front? Maybe Trossard plays in that false nine. So his game time is going to be on and off. But he's starting games and he's doing well. I think I've got a lot of people who send me, you know, Eddie stats, 14 goals in 16 starts or something. And then you look at the sub appearances that he has. He gets 15 minutes, 20 minutes here and there. I'd love to see him make more of an impact as a sub. But you can't ask for much more. You know, he's working hard. When he gets to starts, he's scoring goals. And that is the best way to shut people up.
Absolutely. I realised as I was taking a sip of beer then that I look like the alcoholic on the panel right now.
Where's my latte?
Just water for me.
They will be getting drinks half time, and I hope that you will do. We need to run
This
that
is
bar
vodka.
tab.
I'm not telling anyone right now that I would like a vodka and Diet Coke because I don't, but you know.
There you go. Lovely stuff. Mike, Bukayo Saka scored. Is that goal going to be beaten? What a goal that was.
I mean, it'll be beaten by him because
The right answer. Yeah.
This is just what he does. I mean, the guy, it's Arjen Robben, but like from the sense of you know it's coming and you can't
actually
do
like
anything
him.
about it.
I hated
I
Robben.
actually like him. I did hate Arjen Robben with every team that he was with, not just Chelsea. But he's got so much more to his game than Arjen Robben. Arjen Robben literally, and I don't know him enough to say this, but he kind of was a one-trick pony almost, that you could that was his move. Saka's so much more than that. And, you know, this goal, the whole clock end lower, block 25, you could see halfway, while the ball's still in the air headed to the net, they're all going up, because not only, you know, could you tell the ball was headed in, but you just knew what he was going to do. It's when you don't know what he's going to do, which is the way the entire Nottingham Forest team acted the entire time that he was out on the wing, that he just presents such a threat. I mean, we are looking at a generational player.
Hold on. Bailey has just tried to very casually open a bottle of water and did it in the loudest way he possibly could.
I don't think anyone heard.
That bottle of water was booby-trapped to expose him. I mean, we're looking at, and he's not the only one on this team right now, but I mean, we're looking at a situation where we have the man in the Premier League right now. You say what you want about Harry Kane, he's gone now. Thank you. He is gone.
Still hasn't won a trophy either.
We watched that last night with so much joy. He had nothing to do with the loss either, but it was just, you know, it happens because he's him. But I mean, we can live through the next 10 years, hopefully, with Arsenal the whole time, where we have the generational player of this generation, and just what a guy to root for as well. Incredible lad. I'm looking for the bell now, but I don't have it because it's your podcast. But just, I mean, this man playing for Arsenal Football Club needs to be just set in stone for life. I know we don't give out 14-year contracts like Chelsea does, but with him, I would make an exception.
14's low for, you know, Chelsea. But Harry, I think that's a really important point, especially linking it with the Kane thing. Now, I am a little bit superstitious, and I felt as though, as the England captain, Kane sometimes got a little bit of nicer treatment than other players. I can see you're nodding, so I'm glad about that. It's not just me. Do you feel as though that, because I feel that Saka now, with Kane in the Bundesliga, is probably the standout English player, you know, that is in that England squad. Yes, we've got other young stars, Phil Foden, you know, at Manchester City, of course. But do you feel as though that maybe Saka takes something of that English weight now that he's kind of with Kane gone?
Yeah, he'll take a bit of weight, but I think he gets better protected by referees now than he did a year ago.
Do you think he does?
Still waiting for that.
Yeah?
He still gets kicked, but I think in time, as Saka becomes more and more of a star for England, that'll even subconsciously creep in. I think you'll see that happen. The thing with Saka for me at the moment that I really, really like is that he really believes in himself. It was the game against Manchester United where he shifted the ball out of his feet from way out and just had the belief and confidence in himself to just take it on and hit the shot. And obviously he found the far corner and it was great. And again, the same applied yesterday. As soon as he cut inside, he only had one thing on his mind. And that's kind of a little bit what I think Eddie Nketiah needs as well, just to start believing in himself. I was really impressed by the fact that when he got the ball from Martinelli yesterday, from Martinelli's accidental assist, he...
Do I need to demonstrate? I will demonstrate again.
Here, let me show you what happened.
Listen, I'm Martinelli's biggest fan, but he tried to roll his foot over the ball and he got it wrong.
Let it go.
He's Brazilian.
But anyway, Eddie Nketiah, as soon as he got that ball, he only had one thing on his mind, and that was make space for the shot and get it off. No, I'm going to Nketiah now, because I think Nketiah needs a bit of what Saka's developed over the last 12, 18 months, which is to believe in himself. And you guys mentioned it, that he maybe feels like a bit of a stand-in at the moment. I don't think Mikel Arteta sees it like that. I really don't. I know he picks Jesus when he's fit, but whenever you hear Mikel speak about Eddie, he speaks of him in such glowing terms. So, and also you got to remember, Balogun went to France, scored all of those goals, doesn't get a look in ahead of Nketiah. There's been times where we've wanted Trossard up front or, whatever, and he's still gone with Nketiah. So I think in Arteta's eyes, Nketiah and Saka are big, big players for him. And if Nketiah can find the level of belief that Saka's got, then I think his game elevates, because confidence is such a big thing in football. It's huge.
Absolutely. I really want to see Eddie succeed. I've been such a skeptic. No, I do. And I'll be very honest,
Search Twitter for an argument between us about this man from a few years ago.
No, a good 4 or 5 years ago, I think I used the words, which I look back on now as very harsh, saying I didn't think Eddie Nketiah was going to make it at Arsenal. But the one thing I said always alongside that was that I hope I'm wrong. And whenever I'm critical, I'm saying, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that he's going to prove me wrong and turn out to be a great player for us. And stepping in yesterday, he did everything he could by getting that goal to be able to do that. Now, talking about players that need to step up and gain confidence in that, Kai Havertz. He's a player that I think is going to be a little bit divisive, it seems. And I want to do a little bit of an experiment. If you thought Kai Havertz had a good game, and let's say from decent upwards, give us a cheer.
Put my glasses.
And if you thought that he wasn't as good as you wanted him to be, maybe that's a little bit crossover. Let's say less than what you were expecting, give us a cheer. That's really good. I do have very positive listeners. And I do still think, despite the sample size we have here, based upon what I saw on social media, which is never really the best barometer, of grounded opinions, if you like, but I thought that Havertz was decent. I didn't think it was a £65 million performance. I don't think that would be unfair to describe it that way. But I thought that he worked hard. I thought that he played some good passes. I thought he was composed in what he did. I thought that, yes, he lacked a little bit of pace when he got that one-on-one opportunity, FK, but I liked what I saw. And I think that based upon what we saw at Chelsea, there's still something to be said about how he needs to grow into this confidence in this new side.
Yeah, look, Kai Havertz has split a lot of opinion on social media. I'm really pleased that you guys saw the positives. I think the fact that he had a pretty tough year at Chelsea in a very dysfunctional team, and the fact that he came with £65 million fee, that's just going to basically put that reputation. I think a lot of Arsenal fans will expect him to hit the ground running. And the way I see Kai is, I think he's a sort of player where you have to watch the game again, maybe on television, to really appreciate what he does, because he's not always going to be on the ball. And when I sit North Bank lower, just behind the goal, there were so many times where he found himself in these pockets of space in between the lines, and he's always running off the ball, taking defenders away. And you don't necessarily appreciate that if you're watching the ball on television all the time. But look, he's never been a prolific goal scorer. I completely appreciate that. I think Mikel's also trying him in a variety of positions, whether he's going to play left 8, he might play up top, false 9, whatever all the coaching references are. And he's going to take a bit of time to settle in, right? New team, new teammates, new instructions, and Arsenal are going places. So we just have to let him, bed into the team. There's no doubting his natural talent. I think we've all seen that. And the other thing, finally, on Kai that really impresses me is, when we did the breakdown, his defensive work as a forward. If you compared him to Europe's top 5 leagues, he is in the top 1% of recoveries, tackles, pressing stats as a forward. And Mikel loves that. So, and he's demonstrated that, I think, in the couple of games that we've seen. So I think Lee's going to be a slow burner, but once he's up and running, I think he's going to fly. So invest in Kai Havertz stocks while they're low.
So yeah, in everyone's fantasy teams next week is what you're saying. Okay, good advice. I know a friend of mine who put him in and wasn't very happy about it. But I think when it comes to that kind of the positives of the game, there was obviously the other side of the coin, and the other side of the coin for me was the loss of Jurien Timber, or Jurien Timber, I'm told. It's pronouncing the J harder. It really sucked because for me, he's been the signing of the summer. You know, Declan Rice, brilliant, £105 million, really glad we bought him. Kai Havertz, I think there's a player in there. But Jurien Timber, I think has been brilliant, Bailey.
Yeah.
Oh, now they work, yeah.
Just kidding. Let's go on to the next step.
Mike, you're needed. He's always at the bar.
Always at the bar.
Every time. Michael. Okay.
Hey.
Yes.
Come on, Michael.
It's 2 minutes of intro and I only used 15 seconds of it. Lovely stuff. Okay, we're going to be back with part two, slightly extended part two. We're not going to shortchange you, obviously, after the shortened part one. So we'll carry on with the chat from the game, and then we'll go into a couple more things afterwards. I've got plenty of questions. If you still have a question, you somehow didn't hand it in, if you leave it somewhere down the bottom, if you sneak up, I'm sure it will be grabbed. But I think we've got pretty much everyone's. Right, so we talked about Nketiah, we talked about Saka, we talked about Kai Havertz, we talked about the impact that he's made, the Timber injury as well. Mike, I'm going to start with you on this. We made that second half a little bit tougher than we might have wanted to. Conceding on the break, our own corner. We're getting flashbacks, I think, to what was it, that West Ham opening game of the season where we lost 2-0. I'm getting flashbacks from that. Did that raise any alarm bells with you? Is there anything you see in that you're concerned about, or do you think it was kind of a thing that we'll learn from and move forward from in the future?
Well, it certainly helps to be able to evaluate it after the final whistle than during it. It was 20 minutes of squeaky bum time that never saw coming. I think the way that we were just kind of ripping them apart and dominating the first half, you would have expected us to come out and just put it away early. 3, 4, 5-0 is what I saw coming. And I mean, it's first game of the season stuff. I mean, you can find reasons why we didn't end up putting that game away early, and you can find reasons why you're okay with that, or you could find reasons why, are we really making progress, which is what, again, the narrative from certain corners seems to be. 3 points is 3 points, and it wasn't like the tables completely turned in the second half and they dominated us the whole time. We still dominated that entire game. It's just that we made it a little closer than we could have. This is the sign of a young team. We used to concede and drop points in these games. Now we're getting away with it a bit. 2 months into the season, a team like Nottingham Forest, who, they're going to be somewhere in between 13th and 18th this year probably. We shouldn't be having a 20-minute period at the end of the game where we're feeling like one thing goes wrong and everyone's going to be walking out of there screaming. But I was overall happy with the performance in the second half. I think you learn from that. I think Arteta will not treat that as though it was a good second half, and that's what makes the most sense to me.
Harry, I thought that what I took actually from the last 20 minutes was something different that I've seen from Arsenal teams of the past. When we've gone to a point where we're like there's a goal between us and the opponents, and we're just winning, that it's panic stations, that we're camped in our own box, crosses are flying in, incisive passes are being played, and it's almost like, if you think about the Anfield game of last season, almost like inevitable that the opposition are going to score. I didn't get that feeling when watching that game yesterday. I got the feeling like, if anything, Arsenal were going to score the next goal. That we controlled things really, really well in the last 8 minutes when we were under pressure. We limited them to very, very few opportunities. I think there was a header for Awoniyi in kind of that, I think it was Tomiyasu might have gone out with him, or Gabriel for a header. I actually thought that we dealt with the last 8 minutes, despite there being that 1-goal scoreline, really well. Did you notice that, and did you think that was kind of a progress from last season?
I always feel like you can't tell how on edge you were until you watch you need to watch the game back, basically. Because in the moment, you'll feel on edge. But actually, what did Nottingham Forest create in terms of goal-scoring opportunities? Even throughout the game, nothing. Literally nothing. So I think we make too much of it. They closed the deficit by a goal, but we were still in control. And we looked the more likely to find a third goal than they were to find a second because of the spaces and gaps they were leaving in behind. I do think like the team are still adjusting to some of the tactical tweaks that Mikel's made as well. Over the summer, that's come because he's brought different players in. He's got different options available to him. You know, for example, this idea yesterday of leaving Gabriel out of the team, playing Thomas Partey in a kind of right-back position when we were defending, but pushing him into midfield when we had the ball. That left us a little bit vulnerable in the wide positions when Forest wanted to break. And they know that. This is the Premier League. You know, people talk so much about not wanting to give stuff away. These teams have got top analysts that would have been watching that and would have been telling Steve Cooper, who's then passing it on to his players, that's the area, there's space, that's where you got to go. And it's no coincidence that when Forest broke away from that corner from which they scored, Elanga's head was down and it was straight onto that side because we'd left that space throughout the game. So, you know, you can't have everything. He wanted the extra midfielder to dominate the game, to control the game, to have the extra body in midfield. And that worked brilliantly in terms of giving us control and dominance. But there are going to be flip sides to that. And unfortunately, Forest made us pay for it on that one occasion. But overall, we were way better than them and deserved to win the game. So I'm not massively concerned by it. I've got to be honest. I think, yes, we're calmer. We're more composed than we were. That comes with experience. And that's only going to get better and better. But I'm not stressed about it, I've got to say.
It's funny, isn't it? Like when you're at the ground and you see them score, the little section of the away fans going nuts, and you immediately look at the clock, don't you? You think, right, how long have we got to hold on? And then the injury time goes up. I did shit myself once, and that was when that was when Chris.
Hope it wasn't tonight.
When Chris, no, it wasn't. Hopefully not. That was when Chris Wood came on as a sub, and they won the free kick. And I thought, it's this, chuck it in the mixer.
Gabriel gave that away, didn't he?
Yeah. And immediately I just thought, right, they're going to chuck it in the mixer. Like, Chris Wood's on, this is it. You know, if we're going to
That's PTSD though, from previous years.
Right. But my point is, and the reason why it's funny is because you kind of go home and then you look at the stats and you think, right, 79% possession compared to 21, 0.8 XG for Nottingham Forest. And you think, you watch the highlights, and then you realise, actually, what was I worried about? Like, Nottingham Forest weren't even laying a finger. So it's just in the moment. You know, your emotions get the better of you. You're in the ground, you're panicking, you're holding on to your mates, you're looking at your clock, you're thinking, blow the whistle, you see the 8 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever it was that goes up, and you just start shitting yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. There goes the monetization. I'm joking.
The guy's name
fine.
literally has 2 of the 4 letters in the F word. So
You wouldn't have bet on me
it was always
swearing
going to be
either.
him, yeah.
So I'll just have to tick that little thing that says some swear words. It's fine. It's
Mild
fine.
profanity.
This video is not made for children.
Tasteful nudity.
Just
You see, he has
just go
one
now.
drink and this is what he does. One. Bailey. We've just witnessed, obviously, Chelsea and Liverpool drawing, dropping points, both of them. I think that was probably the perfect result for us, to be fair. Very happy about that. Yeah. Sorry, Ben. But I think when it comes to City, they look very, very good. 3-0. We saw Brighton absolutely batter, Luton, and Newcastle looking very, very good. Everyone hyped up Aston Villa. I hyped up Aston Villa. Watkins was straight in my fantasy team. I swapped him for Isaac. Now I look like the idiot.
Good.
You are, did you?
All right. It's just that Brazilian comment coming back, isn't it? That's what it is. But what do you make of now you've seen the majority of teams play? Spurs, obviously, as well. I think, did that end 2-2?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care about Spurs. But when it comes to where you're seeing the season starting, and now you've seen us play and the others, how are you sizing things up for everybody?
I'm just looking at Manchester City, to be honest. Today, for the first time in a while, I looked at Chelsea-Liverpool, and I thought you know what? I don't care about the outcome because we're another level above Chelsea and Liverpool. I honestly think it's Arsenal and Manchester City.
Raise a drink to that.
Cheers to that. You know, it's Arsenal and Manchester City, and then it's Liverpool, the Chelseas, the Uniteds as well. I think we're honestly another level, and it feels good. I feel like we've taken Liverpool's spot now as Manchester City's main challenger. Now, the challenge for Arsenal is, can we beat Manchester City at the Emirates like Liverpool did at Anfield to kind of derail their season? Because I think that's the way to win the league and beat Manchester City is by actually demoralising them rather than going result for result. I think we have to look at it that way because Manchester City will steamroll teams, but the way they win the league, Liverpool again, I believe they got 114 points out of 118 in one
You're looking at me, I don't know.
Over 2 seasons, that's what won in the league. To beat Manchester City, you have to be exceptional. And to also beat Manchester City to a league, you have to beat them. So hopefully, again, it is Arsenal beating City. But Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, they've got my side eye, but I'm really focused on Manchester City's results for now.
You've risked being clipped now. Just
please clip it.
out.
I'm certain I'll be right. So.
Yeah, I just want to say we talked about the Community Shield at the start, right? And we talked about it being a friendly, but actually, psychologically, for this group of young players, I actually think overcoming Manchester City might be really, really good for them because prior to the game, I think we'd lost 8 games in a row to City in all competitions, and we've never been able to play our strongest team, which is the most frustrating thing. So I think when it comes round to business time this season in the league, you're right, Bailey, we need to beat them, but I think Arteta will use that as a point to say, look, it was the season opener. It was at Wembley. It was on TV. You played against Man City. We came through it. We won. You can do it. Like he will absolutely use that as a focal point. And I think that psychologically is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Arsenal set themselves up, perfectly. We needed to get that win. It wasn't, the glamorous clean sheet and 3-0 win that City got, but just getting those 3 points and setting us up right, for the season was always going to be the most important thing. That was a kind of a casual, I'm going to bring the mic up but not do anything with it. Okay, cool. So we lost those pounds, lifting those microphones. But we're going to do part 2 with, again, now I haven't told the panel, I'm sitting back now because I can't let them see my phone, that's why I'm holding it. I wasn't just checking football scores, I promise. But we're going to play a game that I like to call Old Tweets.
Oh, no.
Now, I will be very honest. Nothing is incriminating. I'm just going to put that out there. So they can, you don't have to worry about that. And I will say that the aim of this game is that I was going to go back through their Twitters and see if I could find any silly things they'd said. And see if we could guess who we thought the old tweet belonged to. That'd be quite fun, right? Now, I have included myself in this and I know which ones are mine. So I'm going to let the audience try and guess when they think the tweet is mine. Okay, so you might want to try every go. Okay, so we
never tweeted anything that wasn't incriminating.
Yeah, you are in trouble. There's 11 of them, so let's see how we get on. So the first tweet is, I'd be absolutely livid if that was an Emery team. At what point do we start worrying, lads? Anyone want to claim ownership to that tweet? This was during the Arteta era. I'd be absolutely livid if that was an Emery team. At what point do we start worrying? Anyone want to claim ownership to that? It was UFK, yes. Doubting the process, were we there,
Yes. There must have been a dark time.
Yeah. I haven't attached the dates. I think it's funny that way.
My name is Faisal, and I doubted the process.
Yeah, I probably had a wobble at some point. You've as a fan, you've got to call it how you see it, right? And I think it must have been the game when Xhaka played left back and we went crashing out.
Might have been, yeah.
And it was a VRL game, and I'd reached the end of my tether with Xhaka playing left back, play him in midfield. I guess the all the talk on social media, the way that the club was going, I had a wobble, and I thought, do you know what? If this was under Emery, I'd have been absolutely livid, but it wasn't, and it was Mikel, and now I'm smiling.
No, I think you've got off quite lightly with that one.
If there's any Love Island tweets, they're Tom's.
What's wrong with Love Island, Harry?
I can't believe I've just chopped my fingers off with a ceiling fan.
Yeah, that's a story for a different time. We'll talk about that afterwards, that's fine. Next tweet, Erdegaard. Absolutely horrendous. Tavares level of performance this evening from him. Anyone want to claim ownership?
That's got to be Bailey.
that?
That's got to be Bailey.
Bailey Keogh, that is your tweet, my friend.
Why does everybody keep saying Harry every time there's a negative tweet?
I said that.
Yeah, man, that's all you, bro.
Was that? I think it was the Newcastle game in
I
the
don't know when
21,
it was.
I think it was the Newcastle game when we lost. We bottled top four when we lost 2-0. I believe it was.
Now, would you have said that?
Odegaard
If,
let me down that game, man.
would you have said if Odegaard was Brazilian? Would you have still said that?
Yeah.
There we go. I think he was Brazilian. I would have given him the thumbs up. No, but I
Bravo,
don't.
sir.
But Nuno Tavares again, he's done very well. So maybe I was actually praising Odegaard because he done well at Marseille. Lot of goals and assists.
That was the kick in the ass he needed.
Yeah.
I've got the date with this one because it's important for context. It's October 19th, 2018. So think about who was manager at that point. Considering all circumstances, if Arsenal achieve top 4 this season, it will be the greatest achievement since the Invincibles, period. That was me. I said that. I said that. Yeah, I just felt,
Did we finish top 4 that season?
No, we didn't. So thankfully, it's not the greatest achievement since the Invincibles. I just felt during that time when Emery took over, I think it was his first season, October 2018, so 18-19, Arteta took over in 19-20. I just felt as though new manager coming in, if this guy gets Arsenal back into the top 4 in his first season, after all of the issues we've had, the financial trouble, I just felt as though that was kind of like, Anyway, you see I'm giving myself context. These guys don't get context. It's just raw tweets for them. Let's move forwards to the next one. Haven't been Willian's biggest fan of late. It's a good start to a tweet. But how Saka has stayed on the pitch and he hasn't, I don't know. I did give that away.
Is it me?
Stare away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a time, not now, but there was a time that Bukayo Saka was a little bit inconsistent. And there was, and I'm one of those people that likes to swim against the tide, right? So if everybody was hammering Willian,
Swim against
I
the
would have
tide.
said, yeah, absolutely. I would have backed Willian.
Toxically negative.
Yeah.
I said it, obviously.
Swim against. This is the most Arteta backer you've ever seen.
I am an Arteta backer,
you
exactly.
go.
That's why I knew the first one wasn't me.
Swim against the tide.
And just on process of elimination, we've got to be coming up on one of mine soon. I just want to point out that 6 people have
Maybe.
access to our Twitter account,
Maybe.
not just me.
Oh, it's yours are definitely yours. Let's not play that game. Only 14 minutes in a behind closed doors friendly against Millwall. And granted, I'm not watching, but Lokonga looks like a Gerrard Yaya Toure hybrid. Early days, so I don't want to get carried away. Who do you think that was? Anyone? That was Mr. Latte Firm.
I'm not watching, but he looks
I did say I wasn't watching. I was very much on the Lokonga hype train. I think I'd just done the breakdown with Scott Coyne of the Belgian Football Podcast, and I got carried away. And of course, the game's the game, right? You got to hustle on Twitter. You want the non-Arsenal fans to get our tweets. So that's what I've done.
To be
Fair
fair,
enough.
to FK though, Vincent Kompany did compare Sambi.
He did.
To
Hey,
Yaya.
He did. He also
There you
lost
go.
3-0 to City. on his
It
first
must be a bald thing. Me and Vinny.
That's clearly the reason. Okay, next one. Out. What an embarrassment. I knew Marco Silva was the man we should have gone after. He would have let Alba sit on 3 goals and take it easy. I've seen enough. Who was that? That was Mr. Mike Feinberg. Yeah. Shaking his head there. That is you, the Gooners pod.
I'm telling you, that was Andy.
So you wanted Marco Silva instead of Arteta? Yeah?
No, that was it. That had to
I've
be
got the
Andy.
receipts, mate. I know, they're all here.
I would never.
Yeah.
I supported him from the start.
I am sweating. Like, this is nerve-wracking.
We've got, we've got a few more. Still a few more. Don't worry. We're going to embarrass these lot.
We'll remember this, Tom.
Can somebody enlighten me as to what an Ozil fanboy is exactly? If it's somebody who believes he's currently better than Willock or Torreira in a number 10 position, then that is me. Guilty as charged. Who was that?
Harry.
It was you. Have you discovered what an Ozil fanboy is now?
Because, so I used to, at the time when Ozil was out of the side, which obviously was not for footballing reasons, clearly. I know that will never be confirmed, but clearly there was other reasons. As a footballer, he was better than some of the options we had. And all I would do was make that point, and people go, Ozil fanboy. What's an Ozil fanboy? I just want the team to be as good as it can possibly be. And I felt like he was better in that position than some of the other options.
There is such a thing as an Ozil fanboy, but what you've described is not being an Ozil fanboy.
I have a real fear that Kai Havertz is going to fall into the category of
He will, because the divide when he came in was already there. And that means you've already got to convince 50% of the people. And it all stems from buying players from Chelsea in the past that didn't work out. It's not judged purely on Kai Havertz and his talent and what he'll bring to the team. And that's what really frustrates me. People won't give him a chance in the initial stages because of the club he's come from and because of how much we've paid for him and because they wanted someone else.
Yeah, 100%.
I like you, but you're a Kai Havertz fanboy.
Who thought this game would get an applause for a response? I love that. Okay, here we go. Next one. This is the assessment. No thrills, no drama. As an Arsenal fan, getting Mkhitaryan over £20 million is a godsend. Have fun, Alexis. Hello, the Bundesliga Player of the Year when allowed to play in a creative system. That's it. Done. Simple. Nothing else to add.
That's way too many characters for a tweet.
That's the usual.
Yeah, that's me.
Had to be.
Hey, look, I thought we were signing Aubameyang's perfect partner when Mkhitaryan came. And to be fair, he did get an assist in that first game to Aubameyang, I think, you know.
Did he get 4 assists in the first game?
I think he got 4 assists in his Arsenal career. I don't know what else he did after that point, to be honest. I don't remember it. But yeah, no, I was really excited. I mean, Alexis, I don't know about Alexis, is like probably behind Santi Cazorla, my favourite Emirates era.
He had fun at United, though, Alexis, didn't he? So you were right in some way.
He did. You're very right indeed. He wanted to come back apparently as soon as he left, is the story I heard.
Little boy inside him always wanted to
The
play.
little boy inside him, playing that piano. Yeah, we remember it well. Here we go. I would be gutted if you don't. I need to be the Modric, that was the wrong word. I need to be the Mudrick of podcasts. Overrated, underproven, way too expensive, but everyone wants to know what I'm up to.
Mike.
That was indeed Mr. Mike Feinberg. Do you feel like you are the Mudrick of podcasts?
I mean, in the sense that he's never accomplished anything, sure.
Yet, he's got potential.
I mean, this is the crowning achievement of my podcasting career.
You're very welcome. Okay, here we go. Last couple. Imagine this force up front. Are you ready for this? Walcott, Sterling, and Aubameyang. Bailey, do you want to explain why you think Aubameyang, Walcott, and Sterling is a good force up front?
What year was this?
I don't have a date.
2009.
2009.
No, I think this was about 2019.
Walcott, Sterling, and Aubameyang in 2019. What's wrong with that?
Walcott.
2017.
Walcott's what's wrong with that.
2017.
Oh, it wasn't in 2017, though.
It was 2019.
Yeah.
And I said that.
You're a bit late on the Walcott thing, I think.
A little bit late on Walcott. 2019. I think he left in like 2018, didn't he?
Yeah. Look. I'm going to say to that is you've got Walcott pace, Aubameyang pace, Raheem Sterling pace. That in front of an Ozil who was playing. I'll take it.
Oh, someone's been playing FIFA.
That is like the most insulting thing you can say
Last
to a
one.
journalist right now.
Oh, this is great. Romelu Lukaku and an Aubameyang swap deal, Chelsea fans. Anyone taking it? Yeah, someone wanted to swap Aubameyang for Lukaku. Who was it? Come on.
After saying it's not him, I
look guilty all the
really
time.
want this to be him.
This is what they call a back-to-back. This was Bailey Keogh.
Ah.
I'm not going to lie. When TC was saying that, I was thinking, yeah, I'll take that.
He stuck true to it. And that is old tweets. Thank you, everyone. There you go.
He's not claiming... Wasn't claiming it was a good idea. He's just like, yeah,
I like that.
I'm
To be-
doubling down on
I'll
it.
tell you what, and my other half will attest to this, is that I searched for hours, like for some genuine gems of real cold embarrassment
That you could use
against you all.
in a crowd.
And I really couldn't find.
I'm amazed. I've got horrific takes out
I
there.
must be not
I do
searching
them
the
on a
right
daily
keywords.
basis.
I put all your names in with like Tavares and Lakonga and Ozil, trying to find something.
Setting us up for a fall.
I got that. And I think, to be fair, you did yourselves pretty proud. Right, we're going to go to questions. Now, I haven't yet read through these, so you're going to see me looking through them as I ask the questions because I'm scared of what Peeny Ween has written more than anything.
Oh, there they go.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You've just messed the whole thing up, anyway.
We're going to go across the table. So, Harry, we'll start with you. I should have, what I should have done is I should have put who asked the question, but I guess we'll have to say hands up for whoever asked this. So, question for Harry. How long do you think it will be before we see how good Havertz and Rice will really be? I'm thinking about 6 months. Who asked that question? Shout your name out. Who was it? Who asked it? Andrew. Yes. There's a name there.
The journalist that doesn't read.
I watch football, I don't, Andrew, there's your question, Harry, go on.
I think it'll take a few months. I agree with that. I think that Declan Rice is coming into a team where he's going to play a completely different style of football. David Moyes' priority for Declan Rice would have always been protect the back four. Towards the end of his time at West Ham, he'd take the shackles off and let him bomb forward a little bit more. But I think at Arsenal, he's got a completely different role. It's not about taking care of the ball necessarily. When he gets it in front of the back four, now it's about going one step further, progressing the ball, breaking lines, starting moves, occupying spaces that Arteta feels are important when it comes to our attacking phase of play. So I think Declan Rice has got a lot to learn. Not to say that he's not a great player, but I think he's going to take him some time before we see the best version of Declan Rice. And I think the same with Kai Havertz, because for the last couple of years, he's played predominantly as a centre forward, and it doesn't look like that is where he's going to be utilised mainly for Arsenal, especially when Jesus is fit. So I think he's going to need some time to adapt as well to new positions and obviously to a new team, new style of play. That's why I'm not so concerned about Arsenal, even if they start the season a little bit slowly in terms of the performances. Yes, to compete with City, you've got to get the results on the board because we know how relentless they can be. But I think as long as we're picking up those results, the rest of it is going to come and it's going to fall into place. So I would say probably 3 months into the season, then I'll start to look at those two and say, right, have they fit in properly as we'd expect them to?
Lovely stuff. Another one for any panellists. You're so generous, guys, I love this. Any panelist. We'll go for Mike. He's any, he's the any.
I am considered any. Let's all answer this at the same time. We'll do a countdown.
Who or what position would you like to get/fill before the window closes? Who was that? That's not got a name on it. Name? I can't see you. Mick.
All right, Mick.
Great name. Mick. Who or what position? Is it not Mick?
It's Nick.
Nick asks, who or what position would you like to get/fill before the window closes?
All right. Here's what I think we need the most and the soonest. And I'm just saying this because it hasn't been announced. I think we need a top-level second goalkeeper. Someone who will, set new records for having the two best goalkeepers in the league. I think we've got to go.
I've got some really good news for you.
I would love for the guy to have been in the mix zone yesterday. Or was that not?
I can't.
Preferably, he's 27 and Spanish as well. That would really help.
I can't have everything I want.
Does he have to wear denim jackets that say Miracle Academy on them?
He ideally he would.
Because there was one of those very players.
Ideally he would.
In the mix zone yesterday.
And I think that's obviously what we need the most. For me, it's not about additions at this point. It's about paring the squad down to a lean, mean fighting machine to sound uber American right now. And making sure that some of these kind of hanging around us decisions, and we know who the players are who are still in our squad who clearly don't have a future here for one of any number of reasons. I just think getting those things settled is actually more important. We did our business early. We've always wanted to do the business early because we've seen other teams do business early and thrive because of it and get right out of the gate. So. I'm sorry to kind of not answer your question other than with a joke, but I think we've improved this team massively, and to answer the question, someone to take minutes so that Bukayo Saka doesn't run his legs into the ground this season.
Lovely stuff. Next question, again, for all of the panel. So, FK, naturally, this is going to go next to you. How many yellow cards will Arteta get this season? Who was that?
How many games are there?
That is a great question. Isn't it funny how I think it was Arteta who was cited as the example of not how to behave?
Yeah, Gary Neville said that, didn't he?
People love to hate Mikel. What a man, eh? What a man. I think.
Is that
Don't
unfair?
hate me because I'm beautiful. That's like the
Giroud line.
Let's go, guys.
It was interesting hearing Gary Neville say that when he said that, a non-league coach said that Arteta was kind of referenced as a lightning rod, if you like, for this rule change and for stricter. You said there, Arteta's always picked on, in a way. Why? Is it because he's Arsenal manager? Is it because he's a young budding coach? What is it?
It's probably a mix of those things. I think with Mikel, we know that he's a very intense character. He has a lot of energy and animation on the touchline. There are those GIFs, memes of him sort of mocking the refs. Remember that sort of movement at Villa Park, which was highly amusing. And look, Arsenal are back, right? So people just don't like us. They don't like the manager. They don't like the noise that he makes and the energy that he brings. But as a fan base, I'm sure we'll all agree, we love it. We love it. I think when you watch him I'm at the ground. I sort of look across. He's feeling every ball. He's kicking every ball. He is shouting at players, even when things are going well. Like he goes crazy when things are happening. You're just like, that's the sort of guy that I want us to represent us on the touchline. So he's just a class act, and people are just going to hate because he's so animated.
Can I, Mike's being
You'll get lots of yellow
bad,
cards, by the way, to answer the question.
Can I ask you to pull your best Arteta smug face? Do you all know the picture I'm talking about, right? Where he's on the touchline, he's like,
Me?
yeah.
So
Go on.
be like this, right?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That is very good.
Terrible.
Bailey, next one. Which player can we least afford to lose through injury, and where is the biggest drop-off? Who was that asking the question? What's your name? Mike? Terrible name.
top man. Top man. We're going to call you Magic, by the way.
You're Mike A. This is Mike B. Go on, Bailey.
Yeah, we
E-Tech,
saw
Mike.
what happened last season when we lost William Saliba. We just looked completely weak. But I was going to go for the easy option and say him, but actually I think it's Bukayo Saka. I was going to say if I was asked Mike's question about where we need to strengthen, I would say the right-hand side.
Are we putting this energy out into the world right
Touch
now?
wood.
Yeah, everyone touch wood
Everyone.
right now.
Frantically.
Think about that. I'm going to have nightmares.
Yeah, no, I would say if we lose Bukayo Saka, that is an absolute nightmare. I think he's the star of the team. I think he's shown the season. I said this in my prediction before the Premier League season starts. I think he will win PFA Player of the Year if we do win the league. Or he will because he's our star player. So if we lose our star player, you're going to suffer. So I would put Bukayo Saka up there. William Saliba as a close second, but we've strengthened in that position now. We've got a lot of depth. The right-hand side, I'm still a bit worried about. I think we have Reece Nelson on the right-hand side. We tried Fabio Vieira there, but I don't think we have a player who can match Bukayo Saka's quality or talent. The left-hand side, I think we are equipped with depth, but the right-hand side is a worry. So please bring in Mohamed Kudus. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Mohamed Kudus. Question here for, we'll go for the panel, and I'll take this one. Who for you guys is the worst player / signing Arsenal has ever made? And I'll start, he says, Pascal Sigan. Who was that? Horrible. What's your name? There's Nick again. Everyone's Nick. Worst signing, it's got to be Squadron
Pascal.
I can't say Squadron Mustafi. The reason why I can't say Squadron Mustafi is because he was really important in getting us to an FA Cup final. I remember that semi-final.
Seagan wasn't invincible.
Seagan wasn't invincible. Nick, I think that's harsh. Is it bald people? Do you not like FK? Is that what it is?
And Mike.
And Mike.
Hey, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
That is a good
Sylvester
shout.
is a big shout. Any suggestions from the panel?
If it's signing that I disliked rather than being the worst, William Gallas is up there. William Gallas is up there for me. Not because before he came to Arsenal, he was a great player. He's a really good defender. And he had some good performances for Arsenal, but just the whole energy that he brought and like that scene where he threw his toys out the pram, it just... Yeah, and took the number 10 shirt. What was that?
10? He didn't
I can't
take
believe
the
that was
number
allowed.
10.
Yeah, it was
It was given to him, but
He accepted it.
Whenever somebody comes to Arsenal, no matter what their history is, I want them to succeed. But with William Gallas, there was a part of me that was kind of waiting for him to self-destruct. And I shouldn't feel like that about an Arsenal player.
Fair enough. What was that?
I preferred Squillaci. Nicer
Wow.
guy.
This is
Andre-
this
no,
is
no,
not
no,
good
no, no.
for my PTSD.
I have to speak on Andre. Who was that? Who said Andre Santos? Andre, right, so I know I'm amongst the younger members of the Arsenal family in some ways, right? And so before I ever got to go to my first Arsenal game, the day I went for the Emirates Stadium tour, which is the first day I ever got to the Emirates Stadium, we played Chelsea in an away game that day. And me and my dad left the Emirates Stadium. We went to a pub opposite the 12 Pins, which name is Blackstock, thank you. And we sat in there and watched Andre Santos score at Stamford Bridge in a 5-3 win. And I will...
That doesn't mean he was good.
I don't care. You score against Chelsea and you... I hate Chelsea. It's my show. Right, let's go to the next one. Two-part question. This one, Mike, it's going to go to you. Sorry, Harry, it's going to go to Harry. Actually, I think I had a question for Harry. Yes, I do. Right here. Is our problem scoring goals or conceding goals at home? And who was that? Who asked that question? What's your name? Can't see you. Paul asked the question.
The problem is conceding goals. I think towards the back end of last season, that was the issue. And I know that Saliba was a big part of that and why we were sort of weaker in the defensive areas. But I did feel even prior to his injury that we lost our way a little bit in terms of defending set pieces, especially, which we done really well in the first half of the season. And that kind of just fell away a little bit. I think, second half of last season, we just conceded way too many goals at home for us to give ourselves the best chance of picking up maximum points all the time. And, you think back to some of those games at the back end of the campaign, the Southampton one especially, that was really, really painful. So, I think conceding goals is a bigger problem for me anyway. I always go to Emirates feeling like we're going to score. It's the other way that I'm a little bit worried about sometimes.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Mike, this is a question that says, given the quality of the squad now, do you think there is still a path for academy players to join the first team? Who was that? Who asked that question? I can't see. The lights are blinding me, so I can't see anyone. Luke.
Thanks, Luke. It's kind of the mixed blessing of having a team that's filled with players who are both young and experienced at the same time. Is you're just looking for spots where can you possibly fill them with somebody coming through. And it's one of these good problems to have. We've got a few people, especially guys on loan. I'm hearing about Mika Bireth today and what he did in Motherwell.
Knowledge.
Yeah. Scottish Premier League, right?
Yep. Nothing.
And I mean, there will always be spots. I think the fact that Bukayo Saka and to what I thought would be an equal degree, but maybe a bit of a lesser degree, Emil Smith-Rowe have come through and taken the reins of being first-team players, at least in the squad, if not starting all the time. I think it has, other than Amari Hutchison, it has kind of enlightened a number of people who have decided to say, you know what, I can do this. I can be the next Bukayo Saka. The answer is yes, there are spots. It's just not going to be easy. It's not going to be for everybody. You're going to have to be a Bukayo Saka in order to break through that lineup, eventually get in, play your League Cup games, play your dead rubbers hopefully what are dead rubbers in the Champions League group stages. And ultimately get up there. But when you play that way, you will get noticed. And so, I mean, in the next 5 years, how many people from the current academy will have started a Premier League game for Arsenal? Maybe 2 or 3. But that's what a successful club is, though. And hopefully, these young men will find a career and hopefully fund some of our continued growth, and that's what we need to be more in the habit of doing is cycling through talent who, just by nature of not being able to get into Arsenal starting 11, are still valuable enough that other teams want to come in for them, and then we can start selling players well again.
Lovely stuff. We have a next question for FK. This question is, Havertz runs well and trains hard. I think it says hard. But is that worth the money? Who was that? Who asked it? No one wants to own up to the question.
Is he worth the money? Look, £65 million is a lot of money, and to give it to that lot up the road just made me feel horrendous given their FFP deadline of June the 30th or whenever it was. I think he's going to come good. I'm saying that more in hope than anything else. I do think he's a good player. I think he's obviously naturally very talented. He does make intelligent runs. And listen, football's not just about what you do on the ball, right? You know, making runs and taking defenders out of the game allows other players to find that space. You know, we've seen that with this whole inverted business. Right back, left back goes in, right wide forward, left wide forward is then isolated against the fullback. So I think Havertz is a really intelligent player. We also saw in pre-season he was getting into that back post, those late runs into the box. Granit Xhaka, I love Granit. He scored a lot of goals, of course, last season. So the pressure's on Kai if he's going to play that left 8 role. But I think the versatility as well. I liked the fact that Mikel used Havertz at Wembley up front. I think that's another nice option for us to have. And the physical presence. Yesterday at the game, when we were defending corners, to have Deckers, Kai, 6 foot plus people, that physical presence, you can't underestimate that. So I think Kai will come good. I hope he will come good. So yes, he'll be a good signing, good value for money.
Lovely stuff. So thank you for the question. We'll grab that. Let's go to Bailey's got a specific question. Where does Martinelli rank around the all Brazilian players? No, it wasn't that question. Where does Martinelli rank around the Premier League left wingers? I'm thinking Diaz, Rashford, Grealish. Is he in the same bracket as those guys?
Yeah, I had this discussion the other day, actually, and I said this. I believe Martinelli is arguably the best left winger in the Premier League, because who...
No, that's fair enough.
Let's think about it. Rashford had a wonderful start to the season, but I think he's the same Rashford as he was when he was 19 years old. He's just too inconsistent. Now, Martinelli, of course, he's growing.
That is... I think that's fair enough.
Marcus Rashford is the same 19-year-old. It's the same player as he was when he was 19.
I think he's a lot better than when he was 19.
I disagree. I think he had more opportunity, but he still has the same inconsistencies. He was absolutely dreadful for United in the back end of last season. He did reach the 30-goal mark. Granted, a lot of the goals were in the Europa League, but granted...
Can we just get that again? He did reach the 30-goal
He was a
mark.
Ballon d'Or shortlist.
How many of our players reached the 30-goal mark?
But again, we're comparing him to the best other left wingers in the Premier League, and I think Martinelli, is unfair not to put him in the top bracket for the best winger.
Fair enough. I'll challenge you.
Grealish's goal and assist count is not enough. I think if you put Martinelli in Pep Guardiola's side, he'll be like Raheem Sterling and easily score.
You're really linking on that Raheem Sterling front line, aren't you? Aubameyang, Sterling.
I'm waiting for him to say he's going to be the next Walcott.
No, 100 goals for Arsenal, yes, definitely. But anything except from that, no. But yeah, no, I honestly think Martinelli is... It's not a question. I think it's a fact. I think he is one of, if not the best left winger anyway, in the Premier League.
Who asked that question, just out of interest? Ben asked that. Thank you, Ben. I suppose it wasn't more Chelsea related. No hint to who he supports. Two-part question. Are you surprised that Leandro Trossard hasn't featured more? And if and when he does feature, where does Emile Smith-Rowe fit into the Arsenal side? Who asked that question? Lovely stuff. Is that Albert? I can just tell from his voice. Am I surprised that he's not started? I'm not surprised as such, because I know that Arteta has it in him to, use Trossard from the bench, actually. I'm a little bit disappointed that he's not used Trossard more from the start, because I do think that Trossard deserves, based upon the pre-season, but I think he's actually our best player in pre-season, to be honest. And so I'm a little bit disappointed that I've not seen more of him. I thought that actually... in that first game of the Premier League season, I understand why we went with the team we went, and it was justified because Eddie Nketiah scored, and fair play to him. If it was me, and in my Dream 11, I'd put in Trossard for that first game, and I would have liked to see Trossard start. And I think what we have to understand is this season is with the amount of players, and I think this bleeds into the second question about where Smith-Rowe fits in, is that we've got such depth now, in the squad, such depth that across the 4 competitions that we have, we are going to be using lots of players in different roles, different positions. We saw Partey at right back, in the first game of the season, not through necessity, because Arteta wanted to tactically try that system out with Partey there. So I think we will see Smith-Rowe probably playing where Havertz has played in the midfield. I think we might see him in that alongside Ødegaard. We might see him there. But I might also see him pop up on the left wing, as he has done so well in the past. So I think there's definitely scope for that to change. But there you go. Question for Harry. Do you think Ramsdale will be our number 1 by the end of the season /next season? Andrew has put that in?
It's impossible to say because we know that, or we think that a certain goalkeeper is coming in from Brentford to fight for the number one spot. Look, Ramsdale hasn't done anything wrong. I know people constantly look for things to pick on Aaron Ramsdale for, but since he's
Is he world class, Harry?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I
you know,
agree.
he makes excellent saves. He's made match-winning saves, point-saving saves. He allows us to play out from the back, which is something that Mikel wants him to do. Yeah, sometimes he leaves it a bit late to release the ball and he gets closed down and all the rest of it. But whatever goalkeeper you put in between the sticks, if you're asking him to play that way, there is an element of risk. I think Ramsdale's been amazing. And I was one of the people, when we were linked with him, that thought, at that moment in time, did we really need to spend that money on Aaron Ramsdale when we had other pressing needs? I've been proven wrong because he's made the world of difference to the side. I think it's disrespectful to Ramsdale to say that Raya comes in and all of a sudden Ramsdale isn't the number one anymore. Raya's got to win that shirt. He's not just going to get it handed to him. And if Raya comes in and performs when he gets the opportunity, then we've got a great battle. The media narrative around this has driven me crazy because everybody wants strength and depth, competition for places, all the rest of it. But when it's Arsenal, apparently it's a problem to have strength and depth and competition for places. So get him in and let them two fight for the place. But at this moment in time, Ramsdale's the number one until Raya comes in and maybe dislodges him. Until then, let's stop disrespecting a goalkeeper that's helped us take the team up to another level.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. This is a question for Slim Mike, is what it says. Oh, someone wants to get you a drink after the show. How high does Arsenal rank in the United States with silent Stan against his other clubs, like the LA Rams and the other ones that I have forgotten off the top of my head?
Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets. What's the lacrosse
Colorado
team?
Avalanche. No one cares about lacrosse over there. But I think they're called the Mammoth. No, I mean it is kind of crazy that every single one of his major sports teams have won championships in the last 3 seasons. But I've just spent the last 2 weeks with my friend Rick, who just left to go back to the States today. He's from St. Louis, and he's an Arsenal fan. And if there's a place in the world that has more malice in their hearts for that man or that family, it is St. Louis. You think that in the past you may have had some, let's just diplomatically call them differences of opinion with the ownership of our club. Just be from St. Louis. But they don't really look at like that. I mean, owners in the States are kind of just there. Unfortunately, they pick up the trophy when the team wins a championship, which I would shudder to see over here. But I think the opinion of most Arsenal fans over there is that we've got something incredible going right now. I was lucky enough to be in the media to speak to Josh Kroenke in Denver in 2019, and the plan that they laid out. You knew I would mention that, right? You're waiting for your opportunity.
No, you keep going.
The plan that he laid out basically was young, exciting ownership. Not quite a Moneyball situation, but a scenario where we make incredible players rather than just go around buying them at top dollar because that's the in vogue thing to do. And
Chelsea.
Yeah. And they've done it with all of their American sports, and I'm using this word specifically about the American ones, franchises. They understand, I think, the difference now between what football is and what American sports franchises are, and it's a constant learning thing for them. So, I guess I'm now starting to support the Kroenkes rather than answer the actual question that was asked. But
No, that's fine.
But yeah, I mean, if there's no bigger example than in DC, my hometown, before the MLS All-Star Game, Josh Kroenke walking onto the pitch to a shower of applause and appreciation from the Arsenal fans, which were like 80% of the people in that stadium. And that's a testament to what this club has worked very, very hard on in the last 3 seasons to come back from that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just related to transfers. Obviously,
No, it's not.
transfers is like this tangible thing. We spend money, great, we love it, especially us with our breakdowns. But in regards to kind of like the communication, that was always for me such a big thing, is that for so long it was like there was disconnect between fans and the ownership, and that we called for more clarity and we called for more talking and just understanding of why and what they were making. And then obviously the Super League situation happened, which was a massive, massive hit to every single supporter of loads of clubs in the top six basically. And I just think that since that point, there has been a real effort made to repair that relationship. For some people, it's never going to be repaired. And I can only respect that opinion because, for some people that have only experienced or will only experience that period of time, that's all they will have. But I do think it is fair what Mike says, and why Josh Say was applauded at that game is because there has been a genuine effort made. I feel like I should open the floor up, see if anyone wants to carry.
I think with that as well, it's not just about what they do as ownership, it's about the people they put in certain positions. So, for example, like Arsene Wenger, at a point, it felt like he was just protecting, what was going on upstairs. And that turned a lot of fans off of Arsene Wenger, which was a shame because he's a hero of the club. Like, I've got nothing but respect for the guy. And it pained me to see people treating him the way they did at the end. But that was because nobody was speaking up from upstairs. And so Arsene Wenger was shouldering all of it. Then you had Unai Emery come in as a manager, who you guys will know I wasn't a big fan of.
Was you not?
No, not at all. Because
I love that no, of course not, no.
I didn't think he was the right guy based on what we were trying to do at that time. The fact that we needed to rebuild after Wenger, he didn't feel like a long-term solution. And if he was a long-term solution, the club wouldn't have given him just a 2-year contract, as far as I'm concerned. But also, and of course it was because of a language barrier, which you can't penalise someone for or criticise someone for, but the communication wasn't there. The minute Arteta sat down in that first press conference and spoke the way he did, everybody pretty much was on board and was willing to give it a chance. Yeah, there were ups and downs and there were dips along the way, but that communication around what the process exactly is all the way helps people stay engaged with it. And we didn't have that for so long. So it wasn't just the ownership not doing it. We weren't getting it from a management perspective either. And there was just nothing. And we were all speculating about what was going on and what was really happening. Now, you look back at that Arteta press conference, most of what he said he's been able to do and achieve and show us. And so people are on board with that. And that's why the connection with the club is so strong again.
No, that's fair. Did you want to come in on?
No, I may as well, if you put the spotlight on me. I would echo everything that you guys have said. Ever since the ownership, there has been a deeper and better connection, it feels like, with the club. I was tweeting Gary Neville this morning about protesting for the...
Again?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah, I can't let it go. The European Super League, right? We can't forget that. We mustn't forget that. And I was so proud that so many of us went to the stadium and protested that day. And I think that is a lesson that they have learned. And I think the connection now is so much stronger. And ever since they've had full ownership of the club, everything they've done in terms of the decisions they've made in the boardroom, the players they're signing, the success of the women's team, the academy, obviously the men's team, even little things like the murals around the stadium, like there has been a genuine effort to really engage with the fan base, and it's been fabulous. And just earlier in the week, we had the Arsenal Supporters Trust 20-year anniversary. Vinay comes out as CEO, says a few words. He's a really impressive guy, a really nice guy. Made time to stand around with people, have drinks, people took photos and whatnot. But like that is another example of a really genuine attempt to connect with the fans, with a certain selection of fans. But I like what I see, and I think the club deserve a lot of credit for that.
Bailey?
Yeah, I have to echo FK's thoughts. I just see now Josh coming in within the squad. You see in the pre-season, he was there meeting the players, introducing the player to his dogs, for example. It just shows the...
Arsenal and dogs. We love dogs, don't we?
It's just win-win-win. But no, yeah, just introducing the players. It shows that...
Did you see that? The little win-win-win.
Very good, very good.
Friedel, yeah, it just shows the connection he's trying to create. You think of Liverpool, how they're angry at their owners, and other clubs now. We don't have the same, I think, bites we did before, and it just showed the connection they are trying to create between us and themselves. So yeah, credit to them. Since the ESL, they have really stepped up their game, especially Josh coming in and doing interviews, showing his plans and actually relaying out his plans and actually backing his word with action as well. I think that he deserves major credit for that too.
It also shows that you can turn things around. Absolutely. Whether you're an owner, manager, player, you can turn things around. So when we're not performing and when things aren't going the way we want, our job as supporters is to support, not to get the knives out. And that's what was happening at the end of Wenger's reign. You know, it was every little thing. Let's find a reason to hammer the club. I mean, for example, we touched on it earlier, like just quickly. We talked about the ticketing thing at the weekend. Something went wrong. A system failed. What are you going to do? Like, these things happen. Like, you learn from them, you move on, you make sure you do better next time, and that's it. I just felt like the culture around Arsenal Football Club in terms of us as a fan base became, let's look for a stick to beat someone with all the time. And that's not there anymore, which is nice. It makes it a better place to be every weekend to watch football.
Well, there's a difference in how the club are reacting to those situations. It's not thank you for your interest in our affairs anymore. It's we've got an inquest going now on this, and we're going to sort it out so that you don't have to have that inconvenience again, because you are the most important part of our ability to be the football team that we are, and that's coming down from the top and from the people put in charge. So I am way more comfortable with the people who, whose hands these unexpected challenges are coming through than I would have been 5, 6, 10 years ago.
Lovely stuff. Relating to kind of that open book, if you like, is a question that, and you saw this question come up and you were like, are you going to answer that? And yeah, I am going to take this question. The question says, do the media get told by the club not to ask a question on a particular subject? Who asked that question, just out of interest? What's your name? Mark. Oh, Mark, I can see you. I personally have never, ever, ever been guided to a specific question. Any question I have asked Arteta in a press conference or any player in the mix zone has come off my own back. I never had to vet it once. I just asked it because that was the question I wanted to ask. Now, it is up to the player's discrepancy or Arteta's discrepancy how he wants to answer that question. I think that's what we've come to expect from the communication of the club, is that you, and I don't know if Harry can speak on this, you've been in press conferences as well, you've been asking players questions, and you've obviously been in them as well.
You have to raise your hand in the Zoom, though, because if you don't raise your hand, you don't get called on.
You got to raise your hand.
I learned the lesson.
It's not a hard thing to do. Harry, ever?
No, I've never been told what I can or can't ask. The thing is, right, there's different types of journalism, or if you want to call it that. Like, I wouldn't class what I do as journalism. I don't break news. I don't have lots of sources that I phone around to find out information. I don't do any of that. I give my opinions on what the news is, and I commentate on football matches and then analyze them afterwards. So for me, it's a little bit easier, but you have to appreciate that there are people whose job it is to break news. And in order to be able to have those lines into the right people, they do need to manage that relationship a little bit carefully. I'm not saying that they're puppets or that they can't say this or that they can't say that, but they will package their questions in a certain way that doesn't jeopardize that relationship that they rely on to make a living. And it really annoys me, because I used to get this a lot, and I still do get this a lot. Whenever I say
Are you
anything,
Arsenal's lawyer, Harry? Is that?
If I had £1 for every YouTube comment that said, you're on the payroll, I would literally be able to retire. Honestly, just because I don't choose to go down the negative route unless I have to. And it ties back into this question about, do you get told what to ask? You don't. Press conferences is free reign. You can ask what you want. You might get a political, on the fence kind of answer from time to time, but that's the club protecting itself, and that's the same across this industry. It's not specific to Arsenal.
No, fair enough. So I hope, Mark, that gives you some clarity on that. FK, question says here, we kept Thomas Partey and we've gone with Rice. Now it seems that Chelsea might get 2 of our midfield targets. I assume that's Caicedo and Lavia. Do you worry about our availability of DMs with Premier League experience if Partey was to leave at the end of his contract, which I think he's only got a year? He'd signed in 2020 on a 5-year deal. Is it 5 years? So I think he's got 2 years left. So are you worried about the depth at DM?
Look, I would have loved to have seen Granit Xhaka stay in the squad, obviously because I love him, but also because I think he's just a good player. But he's gone, and he was a sellable asset, and we've got that money for him. I do think we're a little bit light, if I'm being honest, because I think there is a drop in quality with El Neni, let's say. As much as we like El Neni, and he's a friendly guy, and he's doing all the social stuff for their tour, great. But as a player, there is going to be a big drop from Rice and Partey.
That's more because they're so good.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're unbelievable. How good is it to see Declan Rice in an Arsenal shirt? I mean, it's just unbelievable. I do think, though, that with Thomas Partey a couple of years to go, we probably do need to think about succession for him. because he's obviously not the right age profile anymore, and we do need to think about life beyond him. But I do think we're a little bit light. If Timber, maybe he can play in that sort of hybrid midfield role. Who else have we got in the squad? Jorginho. I mean, he's
Always forget Jorginho.
Always forget Jorginho.
Again, it's that Chelsea thing kicking in.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
But he's an adequate replacement for a certain level of opposition, I feel, and maybe on the continent, Champions League games, I think that the pace of the game might suit him. But yeah, I mean, look, if we're talking about the physical intensity that we know the Premier League is all about, I would hate to see either of those two miss out on any games.
Yeah, absolutely. Bailey had a question. I love this. It says from Mark. The question's for Marcus. It says for Marcus. So Marcus, I'm going to ask you this question, my friend. No, Bailey from Marcus. Is there a realistic attacker besides Kudus, because I know you mentioned him earlier, that we could sign this summer?
Does this mean strike anywhere in front of Costa?
Anyone that's not Houssem Aouar, please.
Please.
Solomon Kalou.
It broke my heart when I saw him in a Roma shirt. I was like, Mourinho got there before us. No, but I'll probably, of course, Kudus is the main option. I wanted Moussa Diaby. I've been saying it for a couple of years now. I really wanted Moussa Diaby. He's a right winger, of course. I think he would have actually challenged Bukayo Saka, maybe potentially. But of course, that's not the aim no more. It's difficult because Kudus has always been for me the main option. There's not too many targets I can think of at the top of my head who I'd think, okay, yes, let's get him in. I would have liked Michael Elise maybe from Crystal Palace as well. But of course, I know Chelsea and Manchester City are chasing him. But I think he would have been a good option. But except from that, I think it's Mohamed Kudus. It has to be Mohamed Kudus. But I must say as well, it's difficult because Chelsea, Manchester City are also in the market, and they know, players will know that with Arsenal having Bukayo Saka, it reminds me of the Harry Kane situation at Tottenham, where a player knows if he's coming to the club, he's not coming to start, he's coming to be an understudy. So it's difficult to attract a top class right winger. So
okay, yeah, fair enough. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to see 5 minutes, right, Gabe? Yep, lovely stuff. This question came in. We're going to try and tackle it hotline quick, so lightning round. What was your most embarrassing moment as a journalist/YouTuber? Thank you, Trevor, so much for asking that question. What was your most embarrassing moment? Quickly, Harry. Or do you want me to come back to you?
Come back to me.
Mike, I know what yours is. Soup. So tell me about soup.
No, it's not the soup. It's and you were on this podcast. Someone said something, I think I said something dumb, which is, part and parcel of the normal routine. And I had just taken a sip, I think, of champagne. Tom says something that made me just absolutely laugh. And you can see the entire drink of champagne just go into my computer screen from my mouth. And then Owen, who was also on the pod, isn't here. Owen and Tom are laughing their ass off, and I'm not going to say who the fourth person on the pod
I unveiled my terribly unattractive laugh.
Yeah. I mean,
the high-pitched laugh.
It was embarrassing, but yet we still play the video every single podcast in the introduction.
It is a great video. FK, anything of note embarrassing?
Yeah, a couple of things. My first ever show was with Henry Winter, and I messed up. I had no experience of StreamYard, so every time I pressed the jingle, it said that my mic had been muted.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I thought I wasn't being heard, so I had to redo the show 4 times. And you know what? No word of a lie, the guy is a class act. He took his time and he let me do it. And the second time, a live show, the biggest spider was spotted in my room, and I leapt up off my chair.
I've had a spider situation as well.
Mate, people will not let me live that down. It was like Spider Watch. Like, where is a spider
It's
now?
a tarantula cast.
When I was in the New
horrendous.
Forest recently, I was doing my pod from the car while I was away. The dedication
From your Datsun?
from the Datsun, yeah. And this spider go across the windscreen. I was just following it the entire time. But yeah, no, dangerous. It's a dangerous world, is podcasting.
I'm telling you.
It is. Bailey?
I'll probably say it was a couple years back. I was asked to go on a show.
When you were 12 years old.
Yeah. Tisa. And I was on a show a couple of years back. I got asked to come on and speak about a serious topic. I think it was about a racism in football. I think Glenn Kamara against Slavia Prague, I think a couple of years back in Europa League. So I was asked a serious question, and I have a cat, of course. And behind me, I'm talking about it, getting serious, and all I will see is my cat just trickling behind, coming into the camera and just looking in, and I'm seeing the host try not to laugh, and I'm not trying to laugh, but the topic's serious. I'm like, what goes on here? My cat is just there, and the cat just lays down on my shoulder next to me as well, and she's just there for the whole time. So.
Is your cat Brazilian?
Yeah.
I can confirm, yes.
So many analogies coming in.
Coutinho.
Harry, have you got a thought of one then?
Yeah, so I thought of one. So start of last season, start of the championship season, I was sent to do, I know I keep mentioning QPR tonight, but it was QPR against
You know who they are now, right? You
Yeah, I know who
Googled
they
them in
are.
the break, yeah?
It was a game at Loftus Road, and I'd basically been told that I was reporting on the game, and I had my boss sitting next to me because he was presenting the program from Loftus Road as well. Anyway, QPR put a corner into the box, and someone jumped up, headed it into the back of the net, and I couldn't work out who scored. They had two centre-backs, Dickey and Dunn, who looked really, really similar, both tall, light hair, same colour boots. There was no way of distinguishing them apart from their numbers. But, of course, the QPR shirts have the hoops, so it's difficult to see them. So for about 30 seconds, I was just chatting about this goal and avoiding saying who scored it.
He's scored.
And I was so embarrassed because the guy was sitting right next to me and he's like pointing at the paper in front of me, like trying to tell me who scored the goal. And I'm so nervous and I don't know what I'm doing. And I got into a panic because it was the first game and I just couldn't compose myself to say the name. And yeah, I remember leaving that day and I was so embarrassed. They called me back the next week, luckily, but it could have been a lot worse.
Wow,
Very
incredible.
Kamara.
There you go, that's a pretty good story. Very quickly, so I know we've run out of time. I know the people that listen to the channel probably know mine already, but obviously I've only been in this kind of journalism business for a couple of years, and the first time I was ever invited to London Colney to go speak to any of the Arsenal players one-on-one was with this All or Nothing Amazon special. So it was Aaron Ramsdale, Xhaka, me. First time I've ever been there. All of my idols from the journalistic world, you know, Charles Watts is there, our good friend Simon Collins is there, Sam Dean is there. Everyone that I've ever looked up to as a journalist is there. And in the 40 minutes, I managed to get one question, just one question. That was it. I got it to Granit Xhaka. And when I asked the question, he turned around and said, "I have nothing to say to that question." And now, and there's actually another question that says, "What was the question you asked Xhaka?" Now, sadly, I cannot reveal the question that I asked. The reason why I can't answer the question is, and I'll tell you the reason why. It's the same reason as to what we asked the question about the transparency between and the relationship you have between journalists and players. That player has decided not to answer the question. And because they've decided not to answer the question, it would be really ill-advised of me to reveal what the question was. Sadly, that's not going to cut it. But what I will say is that after that moment, and I wrote a piece about this when Granit Xhaka left the club, is that moment made me a better journalist because it made me ask better questions in the future, really think about what I was asking. To reveal something small about it, I genuinely didn't know that the question I asked was going to be an issue in any way, shape or form. It was something to do with something that, you know, genuinely I had no idea about at the time and really unrelated and really obscure. So I'd never have a chance to know what it was. And it made me a better journalist because it made me research more and ask questions that were better. So I'm always been very thankful to Granit Xhaka for turning down the opportunity to ask that
For
question.
basically snubbing you.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, why'd you get so many red cards? Like, you know. That's what I asked. But no, there you go. So that brings us to an end of our podcast. Thank you so much, everybody that's tuned in.
Can I say something really quick? Trust me.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I just want to say, because Tom won't, nights like tonight and nights like we've had before with many of the people on this panel, with many of you in the crowd, the community, and I use that word, I mean, you use that word, you talk about the TGT community, I talk about the community of Arsenal supporters, but I mean, the reason that these kinds of shows are important and why it is so appreciated that you've come here is because we're creating and fostering something that just is too rare in the ultra competitive sports cutthroat environment right now, and it is a community. And you know, as someone who's old enough to be your father and immature enough to be your son,
Bailey's granddad.
yeah, 9 years older than anyone else on the panel, as I found out tonight. I just want to say that I'm constantly in awe of Tom and what he's created, and you're seeing the benefits of that now. He's seeing the benefit of that. He's really, I mean, he's bridged the gap between non-traditional journalism and traditional journalism and done it in a way that's both respectful to everyone who is around him and makes everyone's lives better. I personally don't get up at 3 a.m. on the East Coast for his 8 a.m. show. But the fact that I'm sometimes still up, but the fact that he does it is a testament to what he's wanted to make of his career. So how about a hand for Tom Canton? Love this man. Love this man.
Oh, I really appreciate that. I really want to extend, first of all, a massive, massive thank you to Bailey, to FK, to Mike, to Harry. Please, massive round of applause for these guys. They are brilliant. They are part of this community. They support me so, so much. I've had, engagements with them on shows, coming on their channels, coming on my channels, doing work with them, like me and Bailey did with the Arsenal Way. They support me incredibly, and they're brilliant, brilliant people who I would, I do really take care in the people that I want to be surrounded by, and that includes everyone that's sitting in this room, because community is really, really important, and I always feel like there is a responsibility associated with the communities you build. You want the right people involved with it. That doesn't mean that everyone has to align in the same opinion. It's about people that are respectful, that want to be part of this community and be in the right way, because social media can be so toxic. So I think we've done that here. So thank you once again. Make sure you keep spending some money at the bar. Very much appreciated. And we'll be back soon. And as always, thank you very much.